like you said, he's got 3 rings, right? And just to clarify, none of those rings are with Toronto, right?
Is Fraser Minton going to have more points than Slavkovsky this year? Fraser Minton sucks at hockey. This guy might not even be an NHLer, so we got to settle down on that one.
Adelaide, no. Minus 160 on will they show her holding a drink in her hand.
They are 2 points behind the St. Louis Blues in the wild card, and they are.
Oh, the Blues are dog water. The Blues suck. The Blues are the worst of those 4 teams that I mentioned by a mile.
And
they're not a good hockey team.
Care, like have some set of balls, have some response, have some pride for what the hell goes on the ice. It's so absurd.
I'm looking forward to the parade, but that's going to be later in the year.
I'd rather have so money in that than have Arbor Soderblom. I would rather stack a bunch of garbage that I have in the corner of my room over here than have Arbor Soderblom in that. He's
May 15th, welcome back to Edgework, presented by Pinnacle. I'm Zack Phillips, joined here on the 4-man panel by Rob Pizzola, Alex Moretto, and Matt Alber. Today we'll be breaking down what happened last night, whether Alber is in panic mode yet, as well as looking ahead to tonight's game and giving out some best bets here, presented by Pinnacle. But before we can get into any of that, I want to remind people, today's show, as always, is sponsored by Pinnacle. If you haven't already, head on over and sign up for Pinnacle Sportsbook. Pinnacle is the world's sharpest sportsbook in business for 25 years, and you can find out what professional bettors have known for decades. Pinnacle is where the best bettors play. You must be 19 plus in Ontario. Please play responsibly, and again, not available in the US. So head on over to Pinnacle as we pull up series prices and other stuff like that here today. You'll find that Pinnacle has the best odds, whether it's sides, totals, first periods, whatever it is that you're looking for. So why not shop and play at Pinnacle? Alber, new setting there, and still couldn't make the bed this morning?
Still couldn't make the bed this morning. New day, new setup, same me.
Well, keep it consistent. I can at least appreciate that.
Yeah, maybe if we blow the 3-0, we'll have to start making the bed for some new juju starting next year. But for now, same old.
Rangers 0-2. Rangers 0-2 last 2 times. Albert didn't make the bed. For those out there that are tracking.
Yeah, we big trend guys on the show, so we can certainly do that and not go back to see what it is over the last 6 months.
Do you want to go back? You want to go back?
No, mostly because I don't have the energy to spend actually going for that.
Okay,
that's why.
Okay. Moretto, Albert might need some new juju, but you don't. 2-0 night last night for yourself.
Yeah, Canucks and Oilers made us sweat a little bit right at the end there. Thought like when Bouchard scored it, I'm like, oh my God, if the Canucks go back and score this and tie it again and we blow this under and what was like the most boring low event game, that would have been pretty brutal. But yeah, nice to pull us back into the black a little bit here. And I don't know, my back hurts a little bit more this morning from carrying this team, but hopefully we can get some other winners from other people right now. That would be really nice.
Tried so hard to make that joke that he stumbled over it.
I was reading Penny just posted the new markets for the Eastern Conference again. They pulled it back up, so I got sidetracked.
Well, Charles here. I mean, if you are familiar with Charles in the chat, our known Panthers fan who comes here every day, fairly humble, but now it looks like he's trying to reverse the juju on himself. Canes, Bruins, Eastern Conference Finals, who you guys got winning. Charles, we're having none of that, but let's talk about the games that we did see last night, and let's start there with the Florida-Boston game. Boston keeps that series alive, winning 2-1 last night, making it now 3-2. Going to force this one out to a game 6. Alber, you're the big anti-Bruins guy here on the show, and let alone, I mean, everyone else cheering for Panthers, whether it's because they've got Panthers tickets in hand or just want to see that team continue to advance forward. I think you're the one who's vocally been no Bruins past this point. What do you make of that win last night and their ability to keep the series alive?
So, admittedly, I saw precisely 0 minutes and 0 seconds of this game.
Okay.
But it seems like the Bruins kind of showed up and emptied the tank here against Florida. Obviously, as a Ranger fan, it's kind of nice to see the series go a little longer. Maybe these teams can beat up on each other a little bit more. Certainly,
like you guys are doing with Carolina.
Games. Shut up. But yeah, I mean, it was. No, I mean, obviously the Bruins kind of extended it out. I still don't know that they're going to have enough to kind of maybe even extend this further against Florida, especially without Marchand. But yeah, that was certainly kind of an empty the tank game, I think, for them there.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, empty the tank, keep it alive. It's too bad because as Moretto said, the Rangers, maybe they should have emptied the tank and finished that one the other day, but not able to do so. We'll get to that at some point here. Rob, if you're looking at that series now, it goes 3-2 between the Bruins and the Panthers. Is there any new way to jump into this series and get involved?
I don't really think so. Like, I still think the Panthers will close this out either in game 6 or 7. I'm not really sure at this point, but they were very dominant in the 2 games on the road at Boston in this series. Like, they were just all over the Bruins in both those games. So I think there's a pretty reasonable expectation. And if you look at the betting odds for the game as well, more than a realistic expectation that the Panthers will close it out in Boston. And without Marchand, I mean, the Bruins offensive core, I mean, it's just not there. Like it already wasn't with him in place, and now you remove him from the lineup, and there's just a pretty sizable mismatch. Sometimes you just get flat games. I think the Panthers were pretty flat last night. I don't know what the explanation was for it. They just didn't play a good game, and that happens every now and then. Could have been a combination of them playing poorly and Boston playing really well. But I do still think Florida's going to get this done. Like, not just because Alber's here today and I want to rag on him, but the Rangers genuinely have to be concerned, I think, at this point. For the Panthers, I'd probably pump the brakes a little bit and just say, get back to playing Panthers hockey and things should be fine. They're just a much more complete team. So I don't know if it'll be game 6 or 7, but I'm not someone who wants to jump on board with Bruins series prices after the game last night. I still think Florida's just miles ahead of where the Boston Bruins are.
Moretto, are you worried about your Panthers at all here?
No, I talked about this yesterday on the show. It was Bruins or nothing. No interest in betting the Panthers at those prices. I said you're going to get their best effort. Backs against the wall, facing elimination. You're going to get their best effort, and that's exactly what we got from them. I think maybe it was a bit of an empty the tank game, but regardless, it was a case of Florida getting a bit of a wake up call, and I think Florida's still considerably the better team. Nothing really has changed here, other than the Bruins were backed into a corner, came out swinging, and Florida wasn't exactly prepared, but I think they'll be just fine. The Bruins have been better on the road all season. They were better on the road in the first round. They've been better on the road in this round. And going back home now, I think the Panthers will Bruins going back home, going back to Boston now for Florida. I think they'll comfortably be able to take care of business. I still think this ends in 6. That's what I had said before the series, and I still feel good about that. In terms of getting involved with this, I gave it out yesterday. I said, minus the minus 110s that were widely available on the Panthers to win the East were a good bet. Nothing has really changed. Yes, they lost 1 game. They still would need to lose 3 in a row to lose this series. I don't think anything has really changed. And now we're getting, plus 107, plus 110s. I think that's still a very good bet and just an even better bet than yesterday. So you're getting a team at plus money that is still going to win this round, very, very high likelihood, and then is going to be favored in the next round. So yeah, for me, that's still a good bet. And if you didn't get on it yesterday, there's still time to get on it now.
You're confident they're going to be favored heavily against the Hurricanes in the next round?
They'll be favored for sure. I don't know about heavily, but I think they'll be favored for sure. Yes.
If it's Panthers Rangers, which is the most likely scenario right now is Panthers Rangers. If it's that, then you're going to see a series price that was very similar to Canes Rangers, if not like a little bit more. I mean, that's even though it'd be like in the minus 160 range, something like that, probably minus 150, minus 160. So that's the most likely scenario right now. I know we keep talking Canes, but if that ends up being the price, this ends up being a fairly solid bet. And even if it's the Hurricanes, like you're talking about the Hurricanes having to go 7 regardless, right? So you're getting a little bit of a rest advantage. And then you're also, they're getting home ice. They're going to be minus 120, like at least, I would say. So yeah, I think just getting plus money on this is pretty much a no-brainer, unless you think the Bruins actually have a chance coming back, which famous last words, but I don't.
I think the Hurricanes would have home ice in that series for what it's worth. They had more points. I
think if you win the division, though, you're getting.
I actually have no idea how it works.
I believe that's only round 2. I believe round 3 and 4 go straight points. I could be wrong.
I thought it was still seeding. I thought seeding still had true. Well, I guess we should look into that. Either way, I still think the Panthers are going to be favored in that series, though.
Yeah.
Just Alber showing Moretto up today. Look at that new
venue
and a lot of courage.
Knew all the Rangers shots were coming. Had to get ready.
We gotta
all right,
figure this out though. I'm actually very curious to know how it works now. Then
I thought I remember
Yeah.
looking this up and saw that it was only seeding for round 2.
Yeah, the first 2
Uh,
rounds. That does ring a bell. I hate to say it, Alber, but I think you're onto something here.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's something I feel like I should know. I'm not sure. As we continue on here, there, Charles in the chat saying Cats will be on the road.
but he also said seeding
So,
takes
maybe
precedent.
knows.
So
Yeah,
Yeah, and
I don't
Yep,
know.
yep.
Those are contrary to what.
Conflicting.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. All right.
yeah,
Fair
it
enough.
says better rate conference final and Stanley Cup final. Home ice goes to the team that has
Most
the better
points.
regular season record,
Okay.
regardless
Yep.
of the team's final standing in their division.
gotcha.
Per
Okay.
NHL.com.
There we go. Well,
Take
Nice. There you go.
warning. Cause chaos.
so now Moretto's cheering for the Rangers.
Yeah,
go
right.
I still think it's a high likelihood that the Rangers win that series. I said that yesterday too. I still think it's, and the Panthers
Yeah.
have been great on the road, so I'm not, overly concerned.
Let's head on over to the Western Conference. Vinny here saying, the sooner we can get the Canucks out of the playoffs, the better. No one enjoys watching that style of hockey. Rob, are you feeling the same about the Canucks style of play right now through the second round?
I'll give So Money and Matt Russell a chance to exit for 10 seconds here before I get started on this. I hate watching the Canucks play. I honestly do. Somebody will say like, oh, bitter Leafs fan, they're out or whatever. I just don't really like it. Like, they clearly recognize Edmonton has all this talent and they kind of got to slow the game down a little bit and muck it up a little bit. I just don't. I thought the Predators Canucks round 1 series was one of the worst series I've ever watched of hockey in my entire life. This round 2, it's very clear that Edmonton is the more skilled team and Vancouver's like doing what they can to hang from there, keep the games close. I just don't really enjoy watching their style of play. That's my personal preference. Call me a baby or whatever, jaded Leafs fan. I don't care. With that said, I kind of want Vancouver to advance because I have Stars futures. And I think the Stars, provided Rupe Hintz is in the lineup, which we don't know was going to happen. You look like they call it an upper body injury. Looks like probably a hand, potentially back. Something's happening with Rupe Hintz right now. But I like the Stars to roll the Canucks if that's the situation. So I'm kind of having a rooting interest in the Canucks, even though I don't like watching them play whatsoever and would much rather see McDavid go on and through from a neutral fan perspective. But yeah, I don't know. Since game 1 of the series, which obviously the comeback for Vancouver, they've just been like, I mean, it's pretty rough. That game 4 yesterday was their best showing, I would say, since game 1. A little bit more even shots wise, chances wise, but different levels of these two teams. Beauty of the NHL playoffs, though, is that sometimes it doesn't matter and you can kind of I don't want to say scrape by, but like grind your way to victories in a sense. So yeah, sorry, So Money, you're still a buddy of mine. I appreciate it, but I don't want the Canucks. It's tough.
He's working the reverse change so hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tweeting about
Everything
Calvin
you.
Pickard shutouts with like 20 minutes. That's basically the start of the second period yesterday.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I saw that tweet. I'm like, what is he doing? And then I realized what was happening. I respect that. I respect the effort. You got to do everything you can when in the
stone
playoffs
unturned.
to help your team. Yeah. Moretto, you kind of predicted that game perfectly last night there in terms of how that one was going to shape out from a totals perspective. In terms of the Oilers tying that series, making this one 2-2 as we head back out to Vancouver now. Did you see that coming? Is this kind of what you expected?
Yeah, this is a much more even series than the markets are kind of giving it credit for. I mean, this is a Canucks team that just knows how to muck things up and knows how to make things dirty and play that kind of playoff hockey. It is boring. It is not fun to watch, but the Oilers struggle to break through that. And I think this Oilers team we're seeing, again, everyone, buying in, myself included, kind of bought in. They're a little bit overrated. I still think those plus 150s out there on the Canucks right now to win the series are still pretty valuable. Don't really know if Dempo's going to come back. Don't really care necessarily. Silvos is playing fine. I think this is, I don't know. I just don't quite think that the market is caught up.
She
to the
loves
Canucks. I think
Moretto.
we're still-
She loves.
She loves
whatever. I mean,
Susie, yeah.
it's, you know,
She
yeah,
loves.
yeah.
Yeah.
He hasn't earned that. He has to.
The second
He has
time
to win
someone's
this
putting
round
Moretto in
more
his
on the
place today.
respect. You guys are trying to humble me after my my 2-0 night. I see. It's all right. It's all right.
You can't
but
let
yeah,
somebody
I
get too high. You can't let somebody get too high. You
Yeah.
got to bring
No,
them back
no,
down.
never. Absolutely, I agree. I do think though that regardless, I think this goes 7, and I think Dallas is sitting back, kind of licking their chops. Obviously, you have to hope Hintz is healthy, but I think Dallas would comfortably handle both of these teams. I think the Oilers are just overrated. I just don't quite see it. I don't see how they'd match up enough with Dallas. We talked about their depth and how like their depth is different this year. Their depth isn't. They're still not getting anything. They're still relying way too much on the power play. They're not generating much at 5-on-5. For as much credit as the Canucks deserve for playing that like good defensive hockey and making things difficult on Edmonton, Dallas can do that exact same thing and they can just do it better. So I don't know. I just don't see even if Edmonton does find a way through here, I don't I'm starting to see more and more how this isn't their year. And they kind of back themselves into a corner now, having to start, well, I'm going to butcher the name. Is it Picard or Pickard? I don't know.
Calvin
I think the French would call him Picard.
That one I
but,
don't know.
Picard.
It's Pickard.
Yeah. It's Pickard. Okay.
I
Well,
think Pickard, yeah.
I think they backed themselves into a corner by starting him yesterday too. I think that you were going to get a response from the team at home down 2-1 regardless. Obviously Skinner hasn't been great, but now I think that's kind of a game they probably win regardless. Pickard had a minus GSAX last night, but now you have to go back to him. He's not the better goalie, and you're kind of forcing yourself into this spot now where you have to go back to him in game 5. I think that just plays into the Canucks' favor. So, I honestly I didn't bet it, but I don't hate the Canucks series prices live where they are right now. Getting like plus 157-ish, plus 155-ish on them to win 2 of the next 3. I think that's a pretty decent bet. I'm not quite there on the Oilers to where the market seems to be.
There's a comment here by Mass, and like this was very noticeable for me last night as well. There were so many times where I was just yelling at someone on the Canucks it looked like they had a half wide. Pickard. He had very good numbers this year for a backup, and my best friend is a huge Oilers fan. I saw a couple Oilers games this year, and he kept saying, there's not actually that big a difference between Skinner and Pickard. But I watched this guy, and there's so many times where he's just in the most awkward positions, and I think like a really good team like Dallas would take advantage of this guy in a big way. Yeah. And I agree. Like, listen, he's had his games, and it's not even been this playoffs. Like, he has a tendency, to have poopy pants, basically, I would say, Stuart Skinner in the playoffs. But like, what are we doing here at this point? Like, you got to roll with, like, this is your guy. I'm sorry. Like, this is your number one. Calvin Pickard is like a career, like rotational backup goalie, minor leaguer. And you're throwing him out there in like a high pressure situation. He wasn't good last night. They still got it done. But like, I totally agree with Alex there. I think you just got to ride Skinner. Like that's who you got, and you just got to hope he gets it together at some point, because they're not winning the cup with Pickard in that. I'll tell you that.
No, exactly.
Like, they're not winning the Stars, and then the winner of the East with Pickard backstopping.
Yeah, and now you've shattered Skinner's confidence. You just have to let him play through it. Just let him work through it. He's your number one. That's what you have to do. And the Canucks just weren't able to take advantage of Pickard being in net, but that will get exploited at one point or another. I don't think that we've seen the last of Skinner in this series either, because I think they'll realize pretty quickly that they can't keep rolling with Pickard.
I'm glad to see Somani didn't just turn this off and leave. He's in the chat there helping us out. First of all, Pickard lets us know the enunciation, so that's helpful as well, saying, don't worry, 100% this will be picked up and coached. Rick Tocchet, they will identify this, and they're going to figure this one out. So,
well, Tocchet has identified that some of the players are sleeping. I saw his post game. Honestly, Elias Pettersson, this guy has been a no-show. Like, playoff. He's
got to be hurt. He's got to be hurt. Something's going on with him. Like,
he is a shell of the player he was in the regular season. I honestly have no idea how the Canucks are where they are right now. And again, don't take this disrespectfully, Vancouver fans. It's more so just like they lost Demko. They're playing a backup goalie. Petters, like their elite players looked like junk for the course of playoffs. They ended up beating the Preds round 1. They're tied with, like, I don't really know how they're here. And maybe that's a reason to be optimistic about Vancouver is like they haven't even really played well yet and they're in this spot. But God, he's got to get something going because like they're not going to win. Again, Edmonton's not going to win the cup with Pickard. Vancouver's not going to win the cup with Pettersson doing nothing. Like they're just not going to.
Yeah. I see the comment from Vinny in the chat too about Darnell Nurse. I don't know if it's flying under the radar. I think I've talked about this in the past. Like even 2 years ago, he just sucks. That's one of the worst contracts in the NHL, and he's just brutal. I honestly have like the bar for me is so low on what I expect from Darnell Nurse that I don't even think he's having a terrible series. I think he's just bad, and this is just basically what he is right now. So yeah, I don't even. Ian Cole was having a terrible series. So his underlying numbers, I was surprised to see aren't actually that bad. But holy shit, I have not seen someone have this rough of a series maybe in my life. He has scored in his own net. He's got that too many men penalty. He screened his own goalie. He can't make 15-foot passes. It's brutal. Like he's playing so bad. And now he's getting elevated to the top 4 because that's rough. They got to get him out of there. And obviously Noah Juleson last night with that, just going up to try and connect on that hit and giving up the 2-on-1. That's the full Noah Juleson experience. So they got to sort things out a little bit on the back end. But it's true. They've had a lot of bad individual performances and they're still, the whole is greater than the sum of their parts or whatever, as they say. And I think that definitely is down to Tocchet. And he's a pretty awesome coach.
Yeah, I would agree. Before we get to tonight's game, I want to remind people, if you're watching right now and you haven't already, hit the like button while you're watching the stream live. Less than a third of the people watching have liked the stream. That's just not enough. That's not good enough. Let's get those numbers up. Let's try to get 50 before we get out of here on the show today. So get those numbers up. Hit the like button. Let's get to tonight's game where we're looking at the Colorado Dallas game. Dallas, an opportunity to close this one out. We talked about it yesterday on the show about where the Stars were at, and in this series, kind of matching up depth-wise against the Avalanche, the level of loss for the Avalanche here with Nichushkin being out of the lineup here now, and we're seeing that reflected in tonight's game with this price. We got the Stars minus 142 at home against this Avalanche team, plus 134, total of 6.5 right across the board. Rob, we'll go to you first. What are your thoughts on this game here tonight and where the numbers currently sit at?
I like the under in this game tonight. Now, I'd like it a lot more if Roope Hintz ended up being out of the lineup for the Dallas Stars. Their number one center, not a traditional number one center. Like you look around the league and, he might be a two center on some other teams, but certainly an impactful player, especially on the power play as well, where he can move the puck pretty quickly. A lot of people think of these elimination games, they want to back the over because of the goalie pull scenarios and things of that nature. And that's not lost on me. But we go back to game 3. In that third period, the Stars made a lot of adjustments in terms of preventing the Avs from entering the zone cleanly. And that carried over into game 4, where, in my opinion, the Avs had one of their worst offensive performances of the entire season. They could not gain zone entry for a couple entire periods until the game was out of hand. They generated only 2.2 expected goals in that game. I think Dallas has their number right now, and they figured out this Avs attack. Losing Nichushkin is huge. We don't know the status of Devin Taves for tonight. I understand that he was just sick last game, so he's probably going to play in this one. But overall, the Stars have just figured out a way to deny the Avalanche these very fast zone entries. And as the series goes on, you're going to see less and less penalties, which we know Colorado's power play can be lethal as well. So I like the under in this game. I think it's a pretty good number in market right now. You might want to wait. Like, bet timing is very important one way or another. And I don't think there's like a rush to go out and bet this current price right now, because if Hintz is under, ends up in the lineup, you might get a better price or whatever. But regardless of how this shakes out, I'm going to be on the under here. Another thing I'll be looking at in this game is if Hintz is out, there's going to be this cascading effect on player props, right? Wyatt Johnston will move up to number 1 center. You will see a guy like Tyler Seguin getting a lot more ice time. Matt Duchene moves up in the lineup as well. So you're going to get prices on guys that are not going to be adjusted, frankly. They're priced the same way that they were in game 3 and game 2 and game 1, who are now going to be elevated in the lineup. And somebody's going to get Roope Hintz's spot on power play 1 if he's out as well. So there's a lot to look for today. You probably want to set alerts for this game for the Dallas beat writers, see what the morning skate looks like. But if he's out of there, you're going to have some good opportunities to take shots on some other players in the lineup, whether that's to score, shots on goal overs, a number of things come into play here.
So you go. First bet locked in. We'll grab the under 6.5 minus 120 for the show for tracking purposes as well. And you can find those in the in that BetStamp app in the Find Better section as Edgework HQ, and then a couple different angles to look for throughout the day, depending on news that we see coming out. Alber, are there any other ways that you're looking to attack this game tonight?
Well, it's funny because I think I saw someone in the chat earlier mention Wyatt power play points, which personally I think he's the one that would take that spot if Hintz is out. So certainly kind of like that look. I think we kind of touched on this last week when it comes to this series, right? Like Colorado is so reliant on their top end players, and obviously losing one in Nichushkin is just a massive deal for them, and not really something that they can It's not like Dallas where like Rupe Hintz is out and they can lean on the depth. Colorado doesn't have the depth to lean on. So it's like, this is just such a massive blow for them. I certainly agree with Rob's under or nothing here. Like, it's just kind of hard to see how they maybe work their way back into the series after losing a player like that. I mean, they're really going to need the top guys to step up and take over, or this series probably ends tonight.
Moretto, are there any other ways that you're going to be adding on to this one, or we're just leaving in this at the under here?
Yeah, I'm pretty invested in Dallas at this point, series wise, Western Conference wise, all that. So I'm not adding anything here. I do agree under wise too. I think that Dallas can beat you any which way, but I think that they realize like playing this type of game, this more low event hockey, and just kind of suffocating the Avs is the way to go, because the Avs don't have the depth to be able to pull them out of that and to change the course of the game. And obviously that lends itself to an under. So I do agree with that. Didn't actually play it myself yet. Maybe I will at one point. I would like to see what's going on with the Hintz, but yeah. Again, same thing I talked about last night though, where like I do think this is a little bit different because I think Dallas is just such a professional team, but you are going to get the Avs' best effort. They didn't have the best game in game 4, obviously dealing with that news and whatever the reasons are for it. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Dallas just played a very, very good hockey game, but you're going to get Colorado's best effort, backs against the wall. This is, McKinnon coming off a game like he had where he was pretty much a non-factor, same as Makar. I would expect these guys to dig deep and to, find it within them to make this competitive at least. So I have no interest in betting Dallas tonight. That being said, I can't do it with the Avs right now. I think that Dallas is just a much better team. And honestly, for them, I think getting a little bit of rest is a bit of a priority because they've played so many long series now over the last couple of years. And I think that getting a little bit of a breather right now, let Hintz get healthy, let Hakanpää get healthy so they can stop playing Niels Lundqvist like 3 minutes a game. Stuff like that is important for them. And I think that as much as I thought maybe Boston would give their best last night and we could maybe get behind a Boston play, I don't feel the same way about the Avs. Even though I do think they'll give their best, I think that Dallas is still just too good, and I think this is really important to them, and they're not going to lose focus now.
So I see Vinny there as well. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Alber.
So when it comes to Dallas too, like I think maybe having this matchup with Colorado right now could really help them too, as it kind of goes to the next round, right? Like I think they may face a team with a very similar mold coming up in the Oilers that are so reliant on elite top players, maybe don't have a lot of depth. I think we're all on Dallas futures at this point of some kind. And it's like kind of learning how they need to play against this team that has elite top end, not a whole lot of depth, and kind of the way that they're thriving doing so right now. I think that could really kind of maybe show them that this is how they'll need to play in the next round. It could really help them going forward too.
Yeah. I also think, I completely agree with that point, Matt. And it's a good point because Edmonton stylistically plays very similar to Colorado. They pick up a lot of speed through the neutral zone. It's a lot of controlled zone entries, and Dallas has figured out a way to stop that in the last game and a half. So that's really worked in their favor. Just one other angle as well. The numbers have moved a little bit. I don't like giving out prices like after the number has moved, but I know me and Alex played Wyatt Johnston to win the Conn Smythe. And if Rupe Hintz is out for any period of time, honestly, like 14-1 right now is pretty widely available in market as a consensus number. I still think that's a good bet. Dallas is spreading their points around, but if you look like who's going to get the credit for this, I mean, Wyatt Johnston scored some big goals in this playoffs. He has 7 right now. It's only 11 points, but he's going to be the beneficiary of the most upside with Hintz being out of this as well. And I still really like the Stars in the Western Conference. I love their back end on defense. Heiskanen's been like an absolute beast. His ability to generate chances from the point, like that can't be lost on anyone either. And how good he's been in the playoffs. But yeah, Wyatt Johnston to me is a guy that maybe not like a household name from like casual hockey fans, but he's had a really, really good playoffs. And if Dallas makes a deep run, he's probably the guy, because there's no one that stands out right away on the Stars as like they owe everything to him. It's been a very balanced team effort. It's not a Jake Ottinger year for sure. I mean, he's had a couple dud games so far. So I think that's a pretty decent bet at this point.
Well, Connor's on board here. Dad wanted to name him Wyatt, so he's in. You got to appreciate that. One thing I was going to add is like Vinny here is just saying Nate Dogg looked gassed as well. He hasn't had the same burst as round 1. Credit to Dallas for this as well. I mean, credit to Dallas, but I think part of that is just going to have to be he's logging so many minutes. It's going to eat away at you.
Also, like to me, McKinnon doesn't look gassed. He looks defeated. So McKinnon throughout his career, excellent player, not taking anything away from like everyone. I'd love to have everyone wants Nathan McKinnon on their team. The style of hockey he plays is very physical, but he has a tendency, like when things aren't going his way, he's almost like pouting on the ice. You know, he stays behind the play in the offensive zone, like shrugging his shoulders. Guy, you know, he makes a good pass. Guy doesn't take a shot on his team. And you could see it in his body language, right? He wears it on his sleeve. So to me, it just looks like things aren't going their way. He's recognized that. And you've just got him into like exactly where you want him to be, basically, where he just looks like a defeated player. He's played a lot of ice time over his career, right? Like a lot of ice time, stretches like this. And he's been capable of performing at a high level. It just looks to me that honestly, he realizes he's up against it. And this is very narrative based, but I think you can very clearly tell by his body language, especially in game 4, where he was just like a million times on the ice, hands on his head, hands on his, like lagging behind the play. That's exactly where you want to get Nathan McKinnon to be.
I think the way to put it is he knows that it's inevitable at this point. Like he kind of seems to feel like he knows that it's gonna be.
I think after this series too, something will come out about Makar being not fully healthy. He doesn't quite look himself. And I think maybe just playing the amount of minutes that he's playing is maybe catching up to him, but he's not quite Cale Makar right now. And credit to Dallas for that too. They're on him so quick every time he gets the puck. They really are not giving him time or space to do anything, but he doesn't quite look fully healthy. One other thing to add to that Conn Smythe thing as well. Yes, we both played Wyatt Johnston. If you're looking to get in on something right now, that's maybe the best price you will have gotten on him at any point in these playoffs. I think Sergei Bobrovsky 25-1 is a really good bet right now. I know he has not had a good playoffs yet. He hasn't had to have a great playoffs. He hasn't been bad. His numbers aren't so great, but like honestly, I think people lose sight of this every year where like you see guys surging in the first couple rounds. Like there's so much time for someone to still stay claimed to that award, where a guy like Bobrovsky, who if they go and face even Carolina or the Rangers in the next round, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be a lower scoring series. It's going to be a tight series. He's going to have to play very well. He can catapult himself up into that top tier again. And then you go into a finals where you're talking about potentially, like, regardless of who you're going to face, he's going to need to shine. He's a guy where his fitness is so important to him, and he's in such good shape that as the playoffs wear on, he's going to get stronger. He's going to be like just as good, if not better, where a lot of other guys are kind of tiring. So I think getting Bobrovsky right now, buying the bottom right now at 25-1 is a really, really, really good bet. Yeah, he's going to have to be great if this team's going to win the cup. And honestly, I think you're going to see a similar thing happening with the Panthers forwards, where like Tkachuk's been great, Barkov's been great, Verhaeghe's been great. These guys are all going to finish around the same point totals. No one's going to be able to separate themselves from the pack. If Bobrovsky can have like a shutout or two and get those, 8 more, 9 more wins that he needs, and lower that, goals saved above expected, lower that goals against average, which I think he can do, because the next series will especially help him with that. I think that's a good price and a good bet right now.
Yeah, so just kind of to that point on Conn Smythe, right? Like last year, Mark Giroux only had 4 points through the 4th game of round 2, and then just took off. So it's like yeah, everyone's kind of adjusting to what's happened so far, but it's just going to matter so much less than what happens for now, where Bobrovsky maybe goes out and steals a game here and there, kind of helps him carry through the next couple rounds like that. I agree completely.
It's also a recency bias award, right? Like, you get to the conference finals and the Stanley Cup finals, and people, it's just human nature. Like, it's you remember what you've seen last. And if Florida wins the cup and he plays well in the cup finals, and there's no one on the team that, if the goals are like a little bit more well distributed, it's certainly in play. I love the would they vote for a Russian comment by Mass. Honestly, like, I don't think I know Bobrovsky's Russian, but like he's just viewed as like I don't think like hockey players are viewed like that. Let's just put it that way. Bobrovsky's been in the league so long that he's just like is there a larger discrepancy with any player on like what he actually is versus what the average like media person makes him out to be than Bobrovsky? Like, everyone talks about Bobrovsky like elite playoff. He played like one elite series in the playoffs. That was against the Leafs last year. Basically, outside of that, he's just been very average. But like he's hanging off the Columbus reputation. If you kind of catch my drift, that's not saying this is a bad bet or anything, but like the thing with him is like people still love him. Everyone loves Bobrovsky. Like, they view him as like this elite goaltender, even though he hasn't been for a long time. So from a voting perspective, I could totally see that. Like, one big game in the finals, it's like, oh, Bobrovsky's back and this and that, and he's winning them the games. Yeah,
I think like not to get like too in the weeds, but he's a guy where he's very respected around the league and by his peers. Like, people have come out consistently and talked about his work ethic and how committed he is to his craft. Like, he's a guy who's very, very well liked and well respected and highly regarded. He's also, and this plays into it, like, he's a 35-year-old guy who's been around the league for a long time and doesn't have a cup. People like to see guys like that win. People root for guys like that, the old man without a cup things, where you got like Pavelski and all these guys have been chasing their first cups and stuff. This is very much falls into that category where, you look at like there's some books that offer that cup handoff too, like first guy who is given the cup after the captain has it. Like, Bobrovsky's going to be that guy probably. He's a 35-year-old guy who's been around the league for a long time. He's been around this team for a while. That all plays into it, where I think if he's able to have just a very good rest of the playoffs, 25-1 is crazy for a starting goalie who's on the borderline cup favorites right now.
Yep. Last thing I'll ask you guys about the Conn Smythe here. You brought up Wyatt Johnson. Connor asking, Rob and Alex, what would you play the Wyatt Johnson number down to? You said it's already moved. Asking 10-1 here. Is that still good, Rob?
Listen, like at the end of the day, we're just estimating probabilities on these, right? And like 10-1, you're getting into territory where you need him to win the Conn Smythe 10% of the time, every 10 times to make that bet worthwhile. And that's probably pushing it, like, or right around where it should be. When you incorporate what the Stars' odds are to win the cup right now, right? Like, let's assume that the Conn Smythe is going to come from the cup winner, which it does most of the time, except for J.F. Giguère, right? I don't know. Like 10-1 is probably not a super valuable bet. Even at 14-1, like I'm not suggesting you go place a full unit on it. It's just something that's worth betting, in my opinion, where the odds are probably slightly better than that. But so like I honestly, I wouldn't be excited about 10-1. If I hadn't bet any Wyatt Johnston stuff, I wouldn't go place a bet at 10-1 right now.
Agreed.
Last thing I need to ask you guys, we go through the games, go through the series that we saw last night. There's one that we have not yet touched on.
Oh no.
Alber, how are you feeling? Are we in panic mode here? Are we okay? Like, what's the vibe right now?
I don't think panic mode is the term. I think it's cautiously optimistic is probably the way I'm going to go with that. I don't know. I think Moretto hit on it yesterday when I went back and watched it. Like, it was not our game 7, so I'm not going to go that far or any of that. But it was certainly kind of the chance to win before things got dicey. And things are now dicey. Laid a complete egg, never deserved to win start to finish, even when winning 1-0 after 2. Like, never deserved that game in any part. But you kind of had to see this pushback from Carolina come, right? Like, they're too good of a team to kind of just go quietly, especially after they got that one in game 4. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Like, I certainly expect the Rangers to rebound and play a hell of a lot better than they did in Game 5. That said, Carolina is still really, really good, and I don't think anyone would be surprised if they were to end up winning these next two. I don't know. I still don't see as big of a difference between these two teams as the market does. I'll be on the Rangers in some form in Game 6, but I don't know. They'll need to be a hell of a lot better than they were in Game 5 to have any shot.
You're on the Rangers with your life, man. That's your hopes and dreams.
You left your state to go to a different state because you're so superstitious that if you stuck around in New York, you would be your team couldn't win. So, like, let's talk. You're very nervous right now. We talked about this. I don't know whether it was in the series preview or if it was Game 1 or whatever, but I've always maintained, and I still maintain, it's not just based off these results, that the longer this series goes, the more it favors Carolina because you play more of the series at even strength, right? Like, Moretto, I think, honestly, called the Rangers power play merchants.
Maybe it'd be better if the Carolina played the whole series on the power play and just keep letting us.
Yeah, I think the Rangers are shorthanded merchants at this point.
They're special teams merchants is basically what's. Yeah. I believe they've scored more shorthanded goals than they've allowed power play goals. Is that correct?
I think it's 3-2 now. I think they have 3 shorties this series.
This is absurd, right? Like, and anyways, their special teams has been really good, so you give them credit for that. But as the series goes on, like, historical NHL tendencies tell us that there's going to be less power plays. That's just the way that these games are ref. And to me, Carolina is a way better team 5-on-5. They are. They're just so the more you can play at 5-on-5, the better it is for the Hurricanes. Excuse me. I think Carolina's very live. Like, market prices. Maybe I don't want to go out and take them because, like, the market actually is very high on Carolina.
Yeah, the market thinks they're live too.
Right. So yeah. But they are, like, they're playing good hockey. They're gonna be playing a lot of this at 5-on-5, where I think that they're the better team. Like, I'm not running to lay -160 best in market. Like, no, I don't want to do that. But I don't like, it's not egregious enough where I want to come back the other way on the Rangers either. So I think these are fair. This is a fair price. And yeah, I'm sorry, Alber, but I want to see the pain.
No, you're not.
I think the pain is coming. I do. I genuinely feel bad. I do. Like, I know you. I don't know any Hurricanes fans where I have any reason to root for Carolina. You're a good guy. You offer your services to sweep the ice and stuff like that. Like, you have a good heart. I don't want to see you heartbroken, but I do feel like that's where we're headed.
They need so much more. Zibanejad too at 5-on, like Zibanejad and even Trocheck 5-on-5. They've both been, but Zibanejad especially has been brutal. Just getting caved every time he steps on 5-on-5. It's been rough.
Zibanejad's been bad at 5-on-5 since Christmas. At least Trocheck's line's like the only good line that we have right now.
A little bit different than because last year was Rangers Devils, right? And the Rangers won the first 2 games in New Jersey, and then they lost 4 straight. Correct?
They lost 3. They lost 3, and then they pushed it 7 because I remember it went 7. Yeah, they won one of those 3.
Yep, they won Game 6.
This is contrary to everything I stand for as, like, a probability guy, but there was something in that Devils, like, Game 3 where I felt like, oh, like, this team, like, has turned the switch and the Rangers are dust, and they ended up being dust. There's something about the Canes right now where I just feel the same. Like, I can just see Shesterkin has to have a big game. Let's just put it that way. Like, he did. He played really well last game. He looked like a wall for the first 2 periods. But I think that's what it's going to come down to. I think Igor Shesterkin has to steal them Game 6 or Game 7.
Yeah. All right. I don't disagree.
That'll do for today's show. Actually, one question here before we go. Charles here has asked a couple of times, so I want to make sure we get to it. Specifically for Alber. Alber, what do you think of moneyline rollover rest of the games, including Game 5 for the Canes? We could get a huge payout here. Thoughts on that, Alber? How's that maybe a way you'd want to play this?
I don't want to give any clippable material if things are to not go well over the next 3-4 days here. I will just say that I have never been able to get to the point of thinking it's a good idea to lay -150, -160 with the Hurricanes against a team that matches up really well with them. And I will continue to stand by that.
Also quickly bring this up. For the record, obviously, that's what it's for. Our guy Luke in the chat. Hello, please let the record show Rangers blew a 2-0 lead in 2022 to Tampa.
That was
Just
the
for the
most
record,
fraudulent playoff run I've ever seen in my life. So the fact that they were even in the conference finals to play Tampa that year was an absolute joke. They got caved by the Pens in round one. Crosby gets hurt. Jari gets hurt. DeSmith gets hurt. They were fucking Louis Domingue was in net. Like, that was insane.
Eating a spicy
and
pork.
they still almost lost that series in game 7. They did go to overtime. That was wild. I got shit on by Rangers fans in that.
So how much money do we think Moretto lost on that series?
A
after
lot.
hearing
I lost that whole run. Round 2, round 1. I took a beating. Betting against the Rangers. I won't lie.
Yeah, I mean, blowing 2-0 and now 3-0 in 3 straight years would not exactly be great. I texted somebody yesterday that I may have to go into witness protection if this happens. So
already looks like it with your background there.
Yeah.
Nobody knows where I am. Good.
Well, what's the plan tomorrow, Alber? Like, are you gonna do some voodoo stuff to try to turn this around? Like, just take us through the game day routine. We talked numbers, we've talked about the series. I just want to know you've left the state. That's the difference. What's tomorrow's plan? How do you shake this off?
Yeah, no pregame sauna tomorrow. Maybe we'll do an exorcism before the game or something instead. I don't know.
Okay.
We got to do something to shake up the juju here.
Like the
Yes,
candles.
you notice there's no lotion behind him anymore. Eh? I think that I think he's had to put that. He's got nothing to be excited about right now. He's just got to put that all away for the time being.
If you do a pregame
It's like
sauna,
that meme, nothing to smile about.
pregame sauna before a hockey playoff game is like serial killer vibes. You're gonna sweat so much during the game itself. Like, why are you sweating it all out before the game? Like, you can be so dehydrated for the next 3 days after that. Don't do a sauna before.
Gotta get nice and relaxed before the pain of having to go watch that game 5.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm sure the social team won't have any Rangers choking memes done up or anything like that. Nothing.
Nope.
Albert, nothing.
Nope, zero.
All right. I see Lucid there in the chat asking any best bets for tonight. Yes, we have one best bet. Only one game here tonight, but one best bet and a couple different ways for you to look to attack this one. If you're going to look elsewhere, obviously make sure to go back and watch the part where we talk about the Dallas-Colorado game for tonight. But as for the one best bet that we do have locked in here right now, we're going to be looking at that Dallas-Colorado game, and we're going to be going under 6.5 minus 120. That one obviously moved where we've placed it, but that minus 120 is still available on some other books right now. So the under 6.5 minus 120, that is our one and only best bet locked in for tonight's game. We do appreciate everyone who's tuned in here. If you do want to help support the show, you can hit that like button, subscribe here to the channel. If you're listening back on podcast forums, subscribe, rate, review. It does help us get out there. As well, if you want to track all of our bets throughout the course of the season, the playoffs, today's bets, you can head over to the BetStamp app and find us in the Find Better section as Edgework HQ. Hit that like button. We appreciate everyone who supported, who came out to the chat here today. The chat was buzzing during the course of the show here. We appreciate all the questions, the comments, all that. So thank you guys very much. Moretto, Alber, Rob, thank you guys for taking the time to do this here today. We appreciate the insights, helping break down the games last night and looking ahead to tonight's game and Alber's dreaded game 6 there tomorrow night. But thank you guys very much. We'll look forward to seeing you guys throughout the rest of the playoffs. For everyone else in the chat, we'll see you guys back here tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time for more picks and previews. Enjoy the game tonight, the one game tonight, and good luck on your bets.